DreamWorks has done it. They have successfully created a good live-action remake. I'm Owen. This is Owen Talks Movies. Today, let's dive into why I think this remake in particular was a home run from start to finish. But before we start, make sure to hit the subscribe button, like, and turn on notifications. And now, without further ado, let's dive right into it. At least for me, when I think about live-action remakes, the problem usually is that they spectacularly fail to capture the basic essence, the spirit, the heart of the originals. And one of the examples of this is Lion King from 2019. It was a beautiful story in the animation film, but the hyper-realistic nature of the live-action just sucked all the emotions of that film away. What this film does so well is to make all these same emotions hit again. Right from the opening, for me, when John Powell's music started playing, I got sucked right back into the world. The iconic test drive scene, that still feels as iconic as it was, as you feel the thrills and dangers of flying. You really feel for Hiccup as the stakes gets higher, or as he falls through the sky, and the excitement when he gets back on Toothless, and the relationships between different characters, the one between Hiccup and Stoic, is still done with such heart and, perfection. And the cast really gives it all. It makes the spirit of these characters displayed so beautifully, and that's also because of the direction of Dean DeBois, who was the original voice of the animated trilogy. He was the co-director for the first film and the director for the second and third film of the trilogy. And also, once again, John Powell's gorgeous music really makes these beats work. What made the first film so special was a story about this boy who was the black sheep of society, and it was the journey of him discovering his identity. I mean, it's a pretty cliched story, but the execution was immaculate, and that's because the story was relatable, it was heartfelt, and it was just covered beautifully under this new backdrop of Vikings and dragons. And this movie still captures that story and tells that story really well. And sure, it does that beat by beat, but the emotional stuff really does still hit you. Seeing Forbidden Friendship play as Hiccup and Toothless bond for the first time was really beautiful, watching that on the big screen, and seeing Stoic and Astrid grieve for Hiccup when they thought he perished was also really emotional. This remake really does master pouring all these bits and pieces of the heart and soul of the original into this one, and that's why it's so good, and it stands on a higher ground than a lot of these other remakes. And once again, that's because of the cast, because Mason Thames and Nico Parker, they really work as Hiccup and Astrid. They capture the roles really well, and, both of them feel different from Hiccup and Astrid for me, at least personally, than, say, Stoic, since the original voices and appearances don't perfectly match, but I like them because they have slightly similar but different interpretations of the characters, and it still feels like it has that character's essence. And for performances work. So overall, I consider this casting a success, and this is the same with their friends such as Fish Legs and Snot Loud, and especially with Stoic. Jared Butler is still incredible as Stoic, and the movie really does have these bigger emotional beats because you can see the conversation between him and Mason Thames more directly and tangibly as they talk to each other in the movie. The big argument, the final statement of Stoic saying he's proud of Hiccup, hit harder because of this. And of course, I can't forget about Toothless, who is still a lovable goofball in this. His connection with Hiccup still feels very real, and I really respect Mason Thames for being able to act that well against something that isn't technically there. And while I do think Toothless looks a little washed out this time, that's a pretty minor quibble. Now, however, I do understand in the end this movie does offer nothing new. I actually offered a whole video on this before if you want to check that out. But yeah, besides a few scenes such as explaining different tribes, the side journey Stoic goes on, and developing Astrid more, there really isn't much to offer. And I understand that in the end, this still feels like a cash grab. Nothing new. But if I look past that, I still see a good movie in there. Just in a different format because the live action really does give different coats of paint stand out there. The cartoonish look of the dragons are replaced with intimidating, well-made CGI moments, and the action is just pure marvel. It's pretty spectacular how the team was able to film all these aerial action sequences. It really feels real and up close. And the Red Death, for example, brought scale and the scope of the villain way more than the animation version ever did. And it was genuinely intimidating to see him, and, made the threat feel much more capable. And for me personally, I buy into this film because of this aspect. I want a faithful one-to-one adaptation featured in this live-action format if we are going to get these cash grabs, because if you look at this from the cynical side, these movies are going to keep pumping out because they make crazy amounts of money. I mean, this movie over the past opening weekend made almost $200 million globally, and the sequel is already slated for June 2027, which was announced at CinemaCon a couple weeks back. So I mean, if we're going to be pressured into these cash grabs, which is what it looks like, this is the way to go. So overall, I'm very happy about this movie. It's almost identical, but just as lovable as of an experience. I watched the film 2 times, and overall, I'm really looking forward to the sequel. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments down below. Thanks for watching this video as always, and see you next time.